Hi, this is Travis from Tenno Farms, and the mower is broken again, so I'm going to be out here working on it today. This was a really interesting one that happened this time. First I'll show you this blade here. It's all bent up like that. It's getting ready to storm here. And there's my replacement blade in the front here. But what happened was the middle spindle just started vibrating. The bearings are bad in it. That's what's going on. And apparently it vibrated enough that the blade hit the ground, bent, snapped the head off the bolt, and then threw the blade right through this tire over here. So I've got a shredded up tire, a bad spindle, and a bent blade. And then I started looking at everything else while I'm in here, and this spindle is pretty well shot too. Not as bad as the one that went, but it's still pretty bad. So what I did is I ordered 3 brand new spindles from a company on eBay called 810, and they just sell fairly cheap replacement parts. They've been decent. I've used them in the past. They have a couple-year warranty on them. This is the new spindle here, one of them. I got 3. So I got to get the pulleys off of the old ones and drop these in there and put the pulleys back on, get the belt back on, and then get a tire on the mower there too. I got some new tires too here, and then I should be able to get back to it. These spindles are made in China, probably not nearly as good as the original equipment, but I'm going to take the original equipment off after I get these on and put new bearings in them and try and rebuild them if I can. So that way when these wear out, which they probably will before too terribly long, hopefully I'll at least get a few years out of them, but I'll have the originals with new bearings and I'm ready to go and put back in then. This is the boxes they came in, three of them. I got 3 of these spindles on eBay for the same price as one original equipment spindle. In fact, one spindle was the same price as just the bearings to replace in the original equipment. So we'll see how that goes, but at least it'll get me back mowing until I can get everything together, and may need to put the originals back in eventually, but for now I'll be good to go. And then I'll show you when I get this all apart what it looks like, what the spindles look like in there, and get the pulleys and everything back together on there. And hopefully get this up and running again soon, because my grass is getting pretty long out there. So the first thing I did here is I had to get the blades off. That middle one was broken, but the 2 side ones were not. So this was either a 15th, 16th inch bolt head or a 24 millimeter. I started with 15/16, I got this side off with it, but when I went over here to the right side, I used the 15/16 and it kind of spun on it. I thought it rounded the head off, but I got a 24 millimeter on there, and that got a much tighter fit. This one was on so tight, I put my breaker bar on there, still couldn't get it. Had the 1 1/4 wrench on the flats underneath. Had to put my feet on that, pulled as hard as I could, still couldn't get it. So I ended up having to put a 3-foot cheater bar here on it, onto my breaker there with a 24 millimeter socket, and stood on the 1 wrench and then pulled as hard as I could on this cheater bar. I could see my breaker bar even starting to bend a little bit, so I thought something was going to break for sure. But it finally let loose and just kind of, I went flying a little bit, knocked some things over, but hey, it came off. So now I've got the blades off, and I'm getting started on the spindles here. So I've got the bolts loose that hold the pulley on the spindle. The pulley doesn't seem to want to come off yet, so I'm going to drop the spindle out if I can. I don't know if I can though without getting the pulley off first. It kind of looks like I have to take the pulley off because the spindle is going to drop out the bottom. And then I'll show you under here. I started scraping it off, and I'm working on getting these bolts loose. These are 9/16 bolts here, and hopefully you can see underneath here how that goes in. So it has the bolts from underneath, and then the spindle drops down. So it does look like I'm going to have to get that pulley off before I can drop this out of there, because it's not going to come out until that pulley's off. So that's going to be my next step, just trying to get this pulley off of here. I've been pulling on it, nothing's moving, so I'm going to have to really get in there and really bang on it and see if I can get it out of there without damaging anything. Alright, so I did a little bit of YouTubing myself here because I couldn't get this thing apart. I just beat on it with a hammer and a crowbar and just kept going on it, and I could not get it off. And I found out the screws that actually hold the lock ring in that goes inside the pulley, they can go in this second set of holes here. This is the set that actually attaches to the pulley, and you just tighten them down here side to side, and you just go back and forth until it presses the lock ring off of the pulley. It doesn't quite go all the way, but it got me most of the way off. And once I got that far, I could take this screwdriver and just hammer the screwdriver into the lock ring and spread it out until it finally let go of the spindle, and then the spindle dropped out the bottom. So I've got one of them done now, and now I just got to do the other two. But that's the trick to that, is tightening these screws one side at a time, flat against the pulley, and it presses the pulley off of the lock ring. And once the pulley drops down and is loose from the lock ring, you can spread the lock ring with a screwdriver, and then it'll finally let the spindle drop out the bottom. So I'm going to do the other two now, and then I'll start putting it back together. Here's the old spindle next to the new spindle after I dropped it out the bottom and slid it out. You can see I really beat the Zerk fitting down on that trying to get it out. But since I'm going to rebuild this anyway, it doesn't matter too much. To rebuild it, I have to get it apart, top and bottom there. You can see how it looks under there. And then I can put new bearings in it. Here's the new one. Looks much better. It's much tighter. It's not wobbling around. It came with a new lock ring, so I'm going to use the new lock ring and new screws on it. And from what I read too, this is the first one I've taken off, I've still got the other two to go. You should take a measurement of the height of the pulley, so you can take like a measurement from the top of the lock ring up to the top of the spindle there, so you can put the new one back on at the same height, so everything is nice and level when you put your belts on. That'll just make it last longer. But yeah, the bearings are totally shot in 2 out of the 3 originals on here. So I'm just replacing all 3 spindles, and then I'm going to rebuild the originals. And there's the pulley. Got it all off there. So I'm going to put the new spindle in, get the height adjusted, and tighten it back up. Alright, I've got the new spindle mounted. You can see the bolts there are tightened down. This is the new lock ring, new bolts came with it. And then I'm going to put the pulley back on. Took my measurement from the height here, and a 1/2 inch is my measurement. So I need the top of the lock ring to be a 1/2 inch from the top of the spindle to get the pulleys all level again when I put it back together here. So I'll be taking this off, putting the pulley on, and then just putting this back together. So I'll just get everything lined up, and then tighten these, not in the holes they're in now, but in the looser holes here, which will tighten into that and get it just to the correct height, and then I'll go ahead and do the other 2 spindles. But each one will be the same, and then it'll all be done. I'll be ready to put the belt back on. So I'm excited now that I'm finally making some progress here. Hopefully I'll have this thing ready to mow by next week if I can get the tire on the rim. Well, I'm doing the middle one now, and all the bolt heads keep breaking off. So all the bolt heads for the middle one broke off, and then I tried to use the right side over here because I knew it was a pretty good spindle, so I took the bolts out of it, tried to use them in here, and they all broke off too. So I cannot get these other 2 off yet. I got to go buy some new bolts to try and press this out of here. The first one was the only one that it actually worked on. All the other ones broke. So I got to pick up some more bolts and then finish this up. Well, I got the tire mounted on the rim. Just picked it up at the gas station here, so I can get back to working on this. and I picked up some new grade 8 bolts at the Napa. So hopefully these will be stronger than the originals that were on there. The originals were grade 5s. The ones that supposedly came with the new spindles were grade 8s, but the heads just busted right off of them. So I don't know. Maybe they were Chinese imitation or something. Who knows? They came off of eBay, so you just never know what you're getting there. But these are straight from Napa, yellow zinc, grade 8. So I'm going to get back in here and try and pop these other 2 pulleys off of here. And hopefully I'll have better luck this time, that I can get the other 2 spindles in and that I can get this thing back up and running, because my grass is getting really long. It's been a couple weeks I've been messing with this now. So here we go again. Hopefully these don't break off. Oh, and I took this middle tray out of here too. I don't know if I showed that already, so I can get to this middle pulley a lot easier. This is actually the one that the blade broke off of underneath here. This is the worst one, and I wasn't sure how I was going to get to that. But with this plate off of here, with the foot plate off, it's going to be a lot easier to get to. So that's where I am now. The new bolts snapped right off too. No progress whatsoever. I don't know how I'm going to get that thing out of there. I was able to turn one of these bolts out, but the other one broke off flush, and I can't get a drill in there to drill it out. So I don't know what I'm going to do about this now. I just popped the Zerk fitting off of there to see if maybe I can press down on the top of the spindle and try and push it out or something. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to get this. So I'm kind of stuck at the moment. So after about an hour of using a torch, a hammer, 3 pry bars, just beating on it, I finally got this one off. And I didn't destroy it either. I was about to get the grinder out and start cutting on it, but I was able to get the one bolt hole that wasn't broken off in here. As you can see, the one broke off, the other one's still there. I was able to just kind of edge the one a tiny bit at a time there. This one just keep going a little bit, and then just keep prying on the other 3 sides with the pry bar, smacking it with the hammer, and it finally started to move for me. So it might have been the torch that finally let it loose, but it was still on there even with the torch. I torched it until the grease came out of the bearings. It was burning in here. But I was so glad to have this off now. So I'm going to drop this down, replace the middle one, and then get over on the right side one over there. This one was the worst one. This is the one that the blade broke on. It's a total mess. But yeah, got it out there. Used the torch here. That was exactly what I needed, I guess. I just hope this last one goes easier than this middle one did here. This thing was the worst. So here we go. I'm going to replace this one and then work on the last one. There we go. We got that middle one out of there. This is the one that broke the blade. Look how bad that is. Just all wobbly in there, the bearing. So that was wobbling around, and that's what made the blade hit the dirt and bend and bust off. There we go, that middle one. So I'm going to go put one of these new ones in there now. Alright, the middle spindle is in. All the bolts are torqued down, so it's in there good and tight. It's nice and smooth. I put a little bit of WD-40 on there, just kind of lube it up. It's time to put the pulley and collar back on it. So they have a little WD-40 on them too, just to hopefully make it a little easier next time. So you basically just sit the pulley on, get the collar, line the collar up with the key over here, so you can see there's the key. You just match them up, which is hard to do with the camera. And then you'll slide that down and take a measurement on the top of the pulley to make sure you get the pulley back in the same height it originally was, so it lines up with your belt. Alright, I got my height set there. It's so bright you probably can't see it. It's 1 7/8 inch from the top of the deck to the top of the pulley. And something you'll want to know, when you tighten these bolts down, it pulls the pulley up just a little bit. So when I actually started, I did it at 1 7/8 and it pulled it up to 2 inches. So I put it back down at 1 3/4 and tightened it, ended up 1 7/8 where I wanted. So just kind of remember that, it moves just a little bit when you tighten the bolts. Now to do the last one. This third one popped right off like it's supposed to. So you can kind of see how that works there. I just tightened those 2 screws down on the top. They push the pulley down on the bottom, drive the screwdriver in this wedge here, as a wedge in the gap there, and then the top just slides right off. So there we have that. So this is going to be an easy one. Of course, this is the one that really didn't need replaced. The bearing's still pretty good in it, but I'm putting all 3 new in. I'm going to rebuild all 3 of them just because if I have to do 2, might as well do all 3. So I'm going to pull this last one out, put the new one in, and then I'll put the belts and everything back on, and it should be pretty much ready to go at that point. So here we go with this one. Alright, I've got the 3rd spindle in now. Everything's all tightened down there. I need to put the pulley back on still, but I want to show you here on the pulley. I've got 1 bolt that broke off in the pulley here. So I got to get this bolt out, and then I can put it all back together, put the belt and blades on, and then it's ready to mow tomorrow, hopefully. So I just got to get this out. I'm going to see if I can get something on there first to twist it out. If not, I'm going to have to drill it out, but we'll see. Either way, this bolt's coming out tonight, and this thing's going to be ready to mow tomorrow. So as always, nothing really goes smoothly when you're doing this kind of stuff. So here's the pulley. I was able to drill the bolt out. I, of course, got it off center, and my drill bit broke off in there. But what I ended up doing is I just went with it, and I re-threaded it with my tap. And it's close enough, it looks like, that I think it's still going to work. When I line it up here, you can see the holes still line up. So even though I got it off a little bit, I think it's still going to work. I'm going to at least go with it. And maybe I'll order another pulley just to be safe, because the back side of the pulley kind of busted out here too. I tried threading a bolt in from the back to see if I could get it to turn the other one out, and it just, the back just cracked right out of it as soon as I did that. But that's not too bad, I don't think. I've got quite a bit of thread still in there. So I'm going to try it, just see if I can mow with it. I'm going to put it back together now, and hopefully this works. But I may just order another pulley to be safe. Alright, I tightened it all down. Got my final measurement of 1 7/8 after it's tight. So everything is lined up across the pulleys. All 1 7/8 to top off the deck. So now I'm going to put the belt back on, put the guards back on, and put the blades back on. It should be ready to mow. Okay, got the belt back on there. It's a 3/4 inch bolt head there for the tensioner. So the belt is all around now. And then I greased all these bearings. I have to assume they came with some in them, but just to be safe, I pumped a little bit more in each one of those new spindle bearings. And then I hit this one too while I've got the guards off. Now I'm going to put the guards back on, put the blades on, and then hit the rest of the grease fittings while I'm in here, and it should be ready to mow. Oh yeah, and I got to put this new tire on too. So I'll go ahead and do that now too. Alright, it's 1:30 in the morning, but it's all back together. So it should be ready to mow tomorrow. And it looks like I got nice weather to mow too. So the guards are all back on, belts on. Got the foot plate back in here. Everything's good and tight. Put 2 new blades on. I only had 2, but fortunately one of the blades is still pretty good. I went ahead and sharpened it and put it back on. And then I lubed everything up. Did all the grease points on it. So everything should be good to go to mow tomorrow. I'm excited because this has been down for a few weeks now. My grass is looking like a jungle. Alright, so I think I'm good. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments, and thanks for watching.